ready to questions?
I'm ready to go right to questions.
All right, fire away.
I guess in the second half against SMU, it seemed like they were able to get to the perimeter on you guys. Was that misalignment, or were guys in position just didn't quite do it?
Yeah, no, it wasn't misalignment. Just a couple of those calls, disappointing. And that's why I would just say, just in general, the frustration from Saturday was just, doing so many good things and then having some really catastrophic breakdowns, and giving up big plays. It just really cost us. Like you take the first half, you got so many positive things, and you give up a 70-yard touchdown pass, which cannot happen. And then you talk about the second half, and we really did a good job against the run, except for two 65 yards total in 2 plays. And that can't happen. And so it's about proper leverage on the ball without question. Guys weren't necessarily misaligned, but I think it's a little more eye discipline. Making sure based on the coverage that we're in, making sure your eyes are on the right guy. That would, to me, would be what put us out of position. Initially on those plays, and they had great speed. And to me, to be able to you get your eyes out of position for half a second, then you're 2 steps behind the guy. When he's going that direction, and I'm not even moving yet, or maybe I take a false step the other direction. So you can't make those kind of mistakes against elite athletes, and that's what they had, and that definitely cost us.
Last drive specifically, you're down 5, they get the ball back, you have a lot of opportunities to stop them, just frustrations on that drive. Do you feel like you're in position a few times to maybe get that stop that you needed?
Yeah, 3rd down stops, we had the 4th down stop, guys in position, just gotta make the play. We had miscommunication on one of those, which just was so frustrating because the exact same happened earlier in the game, and it was executed properly, and they got off the field because of it, and that was my challenge to our guys. It was like, critical times, we got to communicate. Critical times, we got to execute. And to me, that's what kind of, if I had to say a theme from the game, that was what it was. And you can do a lot of great things, but if you don't execute in those critical times, it's going to cost you. And that was the reality of it all. And at the end of the day, I got to take responsibility for that. And man, I'm so proud of how they played so hard. And that's obvious. But you still got to. You got to find a way, and for us, we got to give ourselves a chance to win the game. So that final drive, we got to find a way to get a stop, force a field goal at minimum, make it an 8-point game, give our offense a chance to go and tie it up, send to overtime. So just so frustrating that we weren't able to finish and give our offense a chance. So just and then even the last play, 3rd and 6 on the goal line. We got a free hitter and got to make the play. And so it's just that's frustrating.
Overall, entering the season, I'm sure that you had your reasons for optimism, things you were confident about, and things you were concerned about. Looking back big picture, what's the thing that surprises you the most with some of the deficiencies and maybe some of the patterns you've seen through 7 games? Maybe you didn't anticipate that.
Yeah, I just think that I was hoping that we just would have some more, could develop some more depth along the way. That I felt like I knew we needed, and would be a big part of us, having success during the season. And I've been disappointed we haven't been able to do that. And I think the safety position to me is one we really just we needed guys to come along and to be able to help us and give us more depth. And I felt like Khalil probably played too many snaps. He had 71 snaps, and that's a lot for one guy. And we're obviously playing with different positions, and so being able to have more guys that can help us is going to be another focus for this bye week, to continue to build more depth at certain positions. And I think that's even depth at linebacker as well. To me, that's another area that to me needs to. And we've seen some growth there. I think Jeremiah Alexander's really has turned the corner, and they're really doing some good things. And Kobe's has made some big plays in that game. I want to see him play more snaps. So, but those are going to be critical things. But I think that's probably the one thing that sticks out. I think that's the disappointing thing from the last bye week that we had. I feel like we made a lot of growth the last few weeks, and needed to see it show up consistently, in this game, and didn't see it consistently. Saw it, a lot of the time, but not. It's got to be all the time. So, but that would probably be the thing that sticks out to me.
How would you evaluate your tackling, the team tackling?
Yeah, we had, I think it's been solid, I think it's definitely been much improved. We had one critical miss on 3rd down and 12. But once again, when you got elite athletes, you're going to miss a guy or two. That's where your layers and your effort and everybody else running the ball covers that up. But I do think that's been an area we've definitely improved on. To me, tackling is obviously a massive part of defense, so we'll always work on it consistently and never cease to be a priority. But I do think we've tackled well.
On this bye week, how do you coach the mentality? Because the future looks a lot different than it did in the last bye week.
It does, but I think to me it's about, preparing to, practicing to, mindset of what's the standard. And understanding what that is. I think we had a really good, opportunity yesterday to talk about that as a unit. Some of the players mentioned it after practice to the team, and I think that's a great thing. We got a lot of character, a lot of leadership on this team, and these guys understand that they're playing for a lot because of who they represent and this program, and wanting to be able to continue to improve and continue to play at an elite level, as our goal to play at that level. And so even though we've fallen short of that, throughout this season. So, but to me, it's a testament to who you are, both as a coach and as a player, is that your ability to weather the adversities that you face, whether they're self-created or whether they're come from outside, and it doesn't really matter where they come from. It's how you respond to it. So I think that's the focus, and that's what's going to be the continued focus. And I thought last night, man, our guys, we got an awesome group of young men that had great energy and great focus and practiced hard last night. And but I wasn't surprised. That's how we've been. I do think once we kind of got through the shock of the first few games and kind of how that kind of unfolded a little bit, I think our guys have responded well, and we just got to play at a consistently high level. And we don't have, with this past game, obviously with our quarterback being out, and I think, you got the margin for error becomes a little bit smaller, defensively, and you got to step up and recognize that. We needed to, we got one takeaway. When we got a takeaway, we got a touchdown. We needed more takeaways. We need to be able to set our offense up and put them in good field position, or even score on defense, and not being able to get enough takeaways to me has been a frustration for me these last couple weeks. And so obviously the one we got was massive, but we got to see more of those, and that's how I want to play. That's the defense is built off of that. So, but just continuing to emphasize the things that make us who we are, and continuing to fight to get better. And that's what I see our guys doing last night and last night's practice, and I expect it tomorrow as we get back on the field.
How do you get this defense to create more takeaways?
Yeah, and I think it's we're going to continue to look structurally to try to be able to create some new movements for our guys, to be able to get them, in different positions that maybe than they might be expected to be in on film. And I think also just continued confidence and belief in what you're doing, and to be able to play a step faster, to get there with, like even that interception was due to, Wade Woodaz guy's hand on the ball. You get tip balls or pick balls. And so how do you get tip ball? Well, being one step closer to the ball based on your read and based on your reaction to what you're seeing. So I think those are things you got to do. And sometimes they just come in groups. Sometimes you can be doing everything right and they don't kind of fall your way. So to me, you just continue to keep doing things the correct way. We keep emphasizing in practice, change your shows up a little bit. We talked about even the concept of being able to do some more, when we tackle in our scout periods, to do more punch tackles, and strip tackles as we're tackling. We had this conversation yesterday, just continue to find ways to create more takeaways, get the ball on the ground more. And so we're going to always kind of find ways to how can we practice better to be able to help us. We make such a big deal about takeaways, and so not getting them is really difficult for me to accept, because that's just what we do. And so we're going to continue to find creative ways to create that.
Is there a way to create physicality in practice?
It's a fine line, I do think that the one thing that we do here more than most places I've been, we go more good on good here, which I think is a great thing. And I think that's a great way to create that physicality. When we do it inside, against each other, we do more team against each other than any place I've been. And I love it. I think it's great. I think we got to keep doing that. And I think we do it even during the bye week. I think you can continue to get that, because that's when you get your best development of those physical things, physical traits, and just, continuing to make it a priority and emphasis. But yeah, because we got to get to, that's how I think even the takeaways, the physicality creates those takeaways, and the violence that you that you hit with, and that's where you got to be. That's where I say you got to be careful with that, just because you're trying to keep your guys, not get them dinged up during the week to be able to play on game day. But that's that fine line you got to walk, and I think coach does a really good job with that. But I want to see us continue to do that and create that competition mindset against the good on good periods, and so we'll continue to do those.
Overheard two NFL scouts up at lunch Saturday. One was saying, I'm not used to seeing a Clemson defensive line get pushed around and bullied. How would you grade the play of that group?
Yeah,
so
it's just
far?
not been as consistent as I wanted it to be, and to me, just to be, the consistent get off and striking and knockback and to playing with that kind of confidence to me is what I really want to see, and so it's been not consistent, and that's where I feel like that it's been at times what you want, but not what you want all the time. And so to me, we got to do a better job of during our drill time and during our individual time and during our, technique emphasis and once again, to continue to go against our line more, which helps us, sharpening each other, and because that to me is a part of what creates the TFLs and the takeaways is the knockback you get by your D line on the offensive line, and then disrupting the offensive play and forcing fumbles by the quarterback or the running backs. So yeah, we just got to continue to find ways to get our guys. 'Cause like I said, I don't think it's not lack of effort. They're playing hard, and so if they weren't playing hard, I'd call them out and call what it was, So, but I do feel like that, really to me, it's more about just, confidence in your technique, confidence in what we're doing schematically, and just continue to work on it. You just the principle, man. You just don't grow weary of just doing things the right way. You just keep going after those. This is the standard, and we keep chasing after that standard every single day. We don't let up. You may make modifications to how you do it, but you don't alter the ultimate goal, which is, man, to be a physical football team that creates takeaways and elite defense.
As a defensive coordinator, you're not only coaching your players, but you're also developing all the coaches under you. What does that look like day to day as you continue to develop those coaches underneath you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of, individual conversations. It's pointing things out. It's, you see something on film, you watch a certain drill, or you see how they talk to a guy, and you're always teaching them, because this is a group of guys that I had not worked with before. And so to me, just a chance for us to continue to get to know each other better. But I think it's constant. It's from, sitting in on meetings, watching how they interact with their guys, and which I do that, and being able to give them feedback, about and how they handle certain players and situations that come up, whether it's, correcting reps, or it's a, an attitude issue or a mindset issue, or whatever you see with a guy and how he handles that. Those are all part of coaching. And to me, that's what I have to do as the head coach of the defense, and being able to be over all those coaches as well as the players. So to me, it's just a never-ending process. And I think and the more connected you are with all those groups, the better it is, and the more respect you have both directions, that you're able to, do those things, and the guys accept that and allow them to be able to be coached themselves as coaches, not just as players.
Talk about the D-line not being as consistent as you like to be. Does that open up maybe more playing time for someone like Jahiem Lawson?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jahiem, is should have played more on Saturday. When you look at the snap counts and rep counts, and so that's something obviously we will address. But yeah, to me, he's been one of the pleasant surprises of the group, in terms of just how disruptive he's been. And to me, he's obviously an undersized guy, but he plays so hard, and he's a really good pass rusher, and does a great job, has a great feel for that, So yeah, there's no question his reps need to go up, and I think Kobe McLeod, his reps need to go up. I think he's earned that, and you're going to see more of that. So just being able to help those guys that we feel like put themselves in a position to play more and help us, improve our defense.
Your linebackers. I know Woodaz is kind of a favorite target on social media during games for not being, good in coverage or doing this. But how would you grade the total group and Wade in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that first of all, Sammy's played at a high level. And I think that's been pretty obvious. And I think that I think Wade's has played well. I mean, he's given some things up. He's made some mistakes. Obviously missed the first tackle of the season, so people want to point that out. But at the same time, he's improved a lot as a linebacker. I thought he probably played one of his better games this past weekend. And but obviously you can focus, hey, he might have missed this or missed that, and there's no question he didn't play perfect. But I think it's been one of our more solid groups if you just go through and take by position, consistently from start of the season till this past game. So, like I said, I know we need more depth at that room, more guys that can help us play, so those guys don't have to play as many snaps. I think that's very important to be able to finish well, and part of not being a step out of position is not being, fatigued in the fourth quarter because you played too many snaps prior to that. So, but I think it's been a really solid group. I think Coach Bowler's done a really good job with that group, and I've seen them improve, even in the last several weeks. And I do think that Wade has played better these last few weeks as he gets more comfortable with the system, learns and just plays the position even more, and just learns how to be in the box, reading your keys, playing with pad level, and being able to decipher the runs and be able to get to the football. So, but to me, it's and one thing he's really improved on is just running the defense. You can just see him pointing and being animated and just being able to get guys set and checks and adjustments. And we put a lot on our backers. We really did. That's how it's, to me, that's why I think it's how it's supposed to be. I played the position, coached the position. That's the position where my eyes go. And so I think those guys have done a really good job. Can they play better? Yes, they need to continue to improve throughout the rest of the season. But they've taken the ownership of the leadership role as well as running the defense, and I think Wade's really embraced that.
How much have some of the struggles in man coverage taken away from maybe some of the desired variety or complexity that you maybe ideally would like to bring? Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and I think it's reality. Okay, and so that's where you gotta, find ways to help those guys, because man coverage is man coverage, and you got to be able to disguise it, but it's also, it's what it says. It's my man, I'm covering you. It's one-on-one, and so I have to be able to, we got to win those one-on-ones, and so to me that's a real area of focus, and it definitely can hinder you when you don't have that ability to do it like you want to be able to do it, and it can hinder what you're able to do structurally and schematically. And so that's definitely a major priority for us in this offseason, to be able to address that and be able to help us in that area, because to me it's really about the more you can do that, the more creative you can be, and the more things you can do, it allows you to be able to be the defense that I envision us becoming.
We talked to Dabo about this, just you coming down onto the field. Has that had the desired effect that you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's no magic in me being on the field or in the press box. I do think that it was a positive thing, without question. And there's no question for me. I love being on the field. I had to kind of talk myself into going up there a year ago, and then I felt like it was very positive for a variety of reasons, and so that's why I chose to stay up there, because of different things that we use now with technology and the different things we have and the communication and all that. So, but I love being on the field. I've been on the field most of my career and feel very comfortable down there. I love being in there with the guys, and I feel more emotionally connected with them. And I also think it helps me, because I do think we're not a just oozing with confidence defense, and so that's where I kind of, looking back and said, maybe I should have been down there earlier just because of that, So, but at the same time, you kind of go through different things, and I made the decision, and you got to live with that. But I'm glad I came back down, and I think it's where I need to be, and so I'm going to stay. And I just feel like just being able to look them in the eye and being able to just totally be right there with them and make those adjustments face to face instead of on the headset is very important. So I definitely will be staying down there, and I'm glad I am.
Important offseason. And obviously, these are players that you didn't recruit. What type of players are you looking for? As you now go out and try to put your stamp on your recruits and the guys that you want to play your style of defense, what are you looking for?
Yeah, man, I just want fast, hungry guys that love the game. That's what I'm looking for. You got to be able to run. This game is played in space. It's what it is. This conference is coached in space. The offenses we play, a lot of elite quarterbacks in this conference. The game is played. Different conferences have different personalities. This league is a very wide open league, and it's you got to have speed. And you got to be able to play with those kind of guys. And so that's a priority. Just tough guys that love football. To me, that's just the toughness piece is what I'm looking for. Just a guy, and when you watch him practice and you watch his film, it oozes from his film. And you watch him compete in other sports. I think those are critical things. Competitive guys. That's why one of my first questions I asked was, hey, what other sports does he play? I love guys that play multiple sports. I think it's just a competitive edge you have, a competitive mindset you have when you do things in a different setting is very important. And And I think, even like you talk about, how do you tell if a guy's tough? There's just certain things you look for when you see him and when you go watch him play in person, or you watch him do this or watch him do that. And so, and then just loving the game. I mean, there's a difficult, we ask our guys to do a lot of hard things, in this sport, and it's very, challenging, mentally and physically. And so you got to love it. You really do. And it can't be because of, we always talk about, like, I would, want to hire somebody just because, hey, this is the, how much are you going to pay me? It's the first question they ask. Well, it's not a good first question, right? Well, it's no different now with our players. If that's all you care about, it's part of it, yes, now, but there's got to be a love for playing football. There's got to be a love for coaching this sport. And I think, finding guys that just love it, that, man, you can't keep them off the field. They enjoy practice. They love playing. They love competing. And that's the kind of guys I want. And I think there's a length piece to this. I like length in recruiting. I think it matters, because it allows you to be able to get your hands on balls, and the windows get tighter whenever you play zones. And when you play man, you have rushing the passer. It's like, so arm length. That's something when I came here, it's the first thing. It wasn't something that we made a big deal about. And I was like, we need to. That's going to change defensively. So it's like one of the first things we measure with the guys when they come, not just their physical height, but their arm length. It matters in this game. And so those are the kind of things that we're really, going to be looking for. And then the ultimate thing is just fit for the program, the culture fit of Clemson. And that's easy for me because that's exactly who I am. And so that's why I came here. And so to me, I just want to find guys that are great fits for us. So I'm excited for that process as we go. And it's obviously ongoing as we're even throughout the season. But man, I love this team. I love our group. And we're going to fight to the finish. I promise you that. Go Tigers.
Coach, take one more, Coach.
You mentioned about confidence. This wasn't a team oozing with confidence. How do you balance that, trying to build up confidence, with also just kind of your trademark intensity, and kind of marry those two concepts together?
Well, I think when you earn the right to really get after somebody, and that takes time, So I think that's how you get to that position where you can really challenge them and be hard on them. And if you watch us practice, I mean, it's a lot of that. And so, but you get to the point where they know, man, Coach is invested in me, he cares about me, he's trying to help me get better, he's trying to help me as a man. All those kind of things matter, but the accountability's got to be there, and that's the non-negotiable part of that. Where, man, I am going to be on you on every little thing that you do, and because I want you to be special, I want you to be great as a man, as a player, and everything in life. And so, but that all weaves together to me, and that's where the intensity, the fire of that, and it's accepted, and it's one. But it also goes back to recruiting the right guys that man, they want that. And you're honest with them in the recruiting process about this is how it's going to be when you come here, And so I'm not always going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you in a way that's going to let you become the elite individual and player that you want to be. And if they want that, and I want that together, and we're all going in the same direction, man, it's an awesome thing. And that's why I think the fit piece, it all matters.
Really appreciate the action, Coach. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
Coach Blake Miller being here in just a moment.